Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamti Jayat. Nashtupraisha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons, text number 45 onwards. So Yamaraji, as a little boy, is further speaking to the queens. Na shrota nanu vaktayam mukhyo api atra mahanasu yastvi indriya vanatma sachanya pranadehayo. In the body, the most important substance is the life air, but that also is neither the listener nor the speaker. Beyond even the life air, the soul also can do nothing, for the super soul is actually the director in cooperation with the individual soul. The super soul conducting the activities of the body is different from the body and living force. The Supreme Personality of Godhead distinctly says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hriti Sanivishtu. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Although the Atma or soul is present in every material body, he is not actually the chief person acting through the senses, mind, and so on. The soul can merely act in cooperation with the super soul because it is a super soul who gives him directions to act or not to act. One cannot act without his sanction, for the super soul is Upadrashta and Anumanta, the witness and the sanctioner. One who studies carefully under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master can understand the real knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the conductor of all the activities of the individual soul and the controller of their results as well. Although the individual soul possesses the indriyas or senses, he is not actually the proprietor, for the proprietor is the super soul. Consequently, the super soul is called Rishikesha, and the individual soul is advised by the direction of the super soul to surrender to him and thus be happy. Thus, he can become immortal and be transferred to the spiritual kingdom, where he will receive the highest success of an eternal blissful life of knowledge. In conclusion, the individual soul is different from the body, senses, living force, and the airs within the body, and above him is a super soul who gives the individual soul all the facilities. The individual soul who renders everything to the super soul lives very happily within the body. So even the living entity, the individual soul within the body is not the controller. He cannot do anything without the sanction of the super soul. And as we studied in Bhagavad Gita, super soul is called, his activities are Upadrashta and Anumanta. Upadrashta means he is the witness of whatever we are doing, not just whatever we are doing, whatever we are thinking also, the desires also. He keeps a track of that. And Anumanta, sanctioner. So Anumanta in the sense, whatever we desire to do, now it has to go through our bank balance of karma. Suppose I desire to own an airplane, but do I deserve it? Is my bank balance there? And if it is there, then he can allow it. He can sanction it. If it is not there, he can sanction. Okay, not an airplane. You can own a bicycle. That's all you can have. So that's a sanctioner. So the desires are there. Desires are there. Plenty of them. Plenty of those. But How much we fulfill, it's all up to the super soul. And whether to fulfill or not, it's all up to him. It's everything is controlled actually. All we have independence is we can desire. That's all. And we think we are controllers, we are this or that. Not without his sanctioning. Bhutendriya manolingan dehanuchavachan vibhu bhajati utsrijati hyanyas tachapi svena tejasa. The five material elements, the 10 senses and the mind, all combine to form the various parts of the gross and subtle bodies. The living entity comes in contact with his material bodies, whether high or low, and later gives them up by his personal prowess. This strength can be perceived in the living entity's personal power to possess different types of bodies. Now, all this is being told by a little boy who's Yamaraj himself to all these queens of Suyatya. And they were lamenting and they were not letting go of the body. The conditioned soul has knowledge, and if he wants to fully utilize the gross and subtle bodies for his real advancement in life, he can do so. It is therefore said that by his high intelligence, Svena Tejasa, by the superior power of superior knowledge achieved from the right source, the spiritual master or Acharya, he can give up his conditional life in a material body and return home back to Godhead. However, if he wants to keep himself in the darkness of this material world, he can do so. The Lord confirms this as follows in Bhagavad Gita: Yanti Deva Vrita Deva. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. So it's all up to us. What choice do we make? Krishna is not going to make the choice for us. Super soul is not going to make the choice for us. Many times people have this argument, oh, everything comes from him. Knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness, everything comes from him. So he is making us forget Krishna. No, but the desire to forget Krishna is ours. And even desire to remember Krishna is also ours. So he makes arrangements. If you want to remember him, if you want to surrender unto him, he makes arrangements. It's very, very complicated actually. And the desire doesn't mean in a day we're going to have only one desire. There could be thousands and thousands of desires in a day. And Super Soul has to keep track of all the desires. So that is why bhakti means anya abhilashita shunya. Of course, there's a technical loophole here. Not a loophole, technical issue or description. It doesn't say anya abhilasha shunya. It says anya abhilashita shunya. So abhilasha means desire. So abhilashita, what does that mean? It is explained as desireness. Means even the inclination. So the inclination other than serving Krishna should not be there. Although the desire can be there. Just like I'm trying not to get off track, but just to give an example, Draupadi Maharani, when she was being disrobed by Dushasana, she prayed to, first she looked at everybody, nobody could help, and then she prayed to Krishna to protect her chastity. And Krishna appeared, and Krishna became that incarnation of unlimited sari, which Dushasan could not disrobe her. So, was that her desire of protection of her chastity, was that a pure devotional service or not? So people ask this question. She is a pure devotee, obviously. Krishna appeared to protect her so many times. So that moment, was that desire pure devotional service, or did she get off track? But she did not. It is explained because it says Anya Abhilashita. So her main desire was always to serve Krishna. But some emergency things that can happen, and devotee out of his or her relationship with Krishna can ask for something which seems like it's not pure devotion service, but it is considered pure devotion service. Because her heart was always full of service of Krishna. In our case, maybe once or twice a day we might have desire to serve Krishna. The rest of the time, heart is always full of material desires. So plenty of purification needs to happen. That's all. The human form of body is valuable. One can use this body to go to the higher planetary systems, to Pitriloka, or he can remain in this lower planetary system. But if one tries, he can also return home back to Godhead. This prowess is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a super soul. Therefore, the Lord says, Matta Smritir Jnanam. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. If one wants to receive real knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from bondage to repeated acceptance of material bodies. If one takes to the devotional service of the Lord and surrenders unto Him, the Lord is prepared to give one directions by which to return home back to Godhead. But if one foolishly wants to keep himself in darkness, he can continue in a life of material existence. But one thing is for sure, one who makes little progress on bhakti, on the path of bhakti, then Krishna makes arrangements so that he gets frustrated everywhere. And then he carries on, or he continues on the devotion service path. So even if he has material desires, Krishna makes sure he gets frustrated. Yavalinganvito hiyatma tavat karma nibandhanam tato viparyaya klesho maya yogo anuvartate. As long as the spirit soul is covered by the subtle body, consisting of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, he is bound to the results of his fruitive activities. Because of this covering, the spirit soul is connected with the material energy and must accordingly suffer material conditions and reversals continually, life after life. The living entity is bound by the subtle body, consisting of mind, intelligence, and false ego. At the time of death, therefore, the position of the mind becomes the cause for the next body. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam. At the time of death, the mind sets the criteria for the spirit souls being carried to another type of body. If a living being resists the dictation of the mind and engages the mind in the loving service of the Lord, the mind cannot degrade him. The duty of all human beings, therefore, is to keep the mind always engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord. When the mind is engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord, the intelligence is purified, and then the intelligence gets inspiration from the super soul. Dadami Buddhi Yogam. Thus, a living entity makes progress toward liberation from material bondage. The individual living soul is subject to the laws of fruitive activity, but the super soul, Paramatma, is not affected by the fruitive activities of the individual soul. As confirmed in the Vedic Upanishad, the Paramatma and the Jivatma, who are likened to two birds, are sitting in the body. The Jivatma is enjoying or suffering by eating the fruits of the bodily activities, but the Paramatma, who is free from such bondage, witnesses and sanctions the activities of the individual soul as the individual soul desires. So again, coming back to the same point, and now it's talking about the mind. So the position of the mind at the time of death becomes a cause for the next body. But the position of the mind, or which way it is inclined, it is it will happen, or it becomes clear by the kind of activities we have dwelled on in this lifetime, or the consciousness that we have developed in this lifetime that guides and that directs the position of the mind at the time of death. So when it says yam yam vapi smarana bhava, whatever one is thinking, well, that thinking is not just a passing thought. It's a consciousness that has been developed. So that is why it is said our next body is developed in this body itself. Because whatever consciousness we are developing, knowingly, unknowingly, that body we will get next time. So at the time of death, the mind sets a criteria. So yes, mind, because of the consciousness, mind gets its position. So therefore, to keep the mind always engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord, that is our duty. When the mind is thus engaged, the intelligence is purified, and then the intelligence gets inspiration from the super soul. So that is why we have to stress upon our Vedic bhakti so much. Sadhana, chanting, reading, hearing, service, again and again and again, every day, and try to do more than what we did yesterday. Vitathabhi niveshu ayam yad guneshwar arth drigvachaha yatha manoratha swapna sarvam andriyakam risha. It is fruitless to see and talk of the material modes of nature and their resultant so-called happiness and distress as if they were factual. When the mind wanders during the day and a man begins to think himself extremely important, or when he dreams at night and sees a beautiful woman enjoying with him, these are merely false dreams. Similarly, the happiness and distress caused by the material senses should be understood to be meaningless. Wow, Yamaraji is very heavy. So when the mind wanders during the day, we think when we are awake, we are up and we are doing so many important activities, taking important decisions, meeting important people, and climbing up the ladder in the corporate world. Yamraji says it's useless. These are merely false dreams. The happiness and distress derived from the activities of the material senses are not actual happiness and distress. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita speaks of happiness that is transcendental to the material conception of life. Sukham matyantikam. When our senses are purified of material contamination, they become atindriya, transcendental senses. And when the transcendental senses are engaged in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha, one can derive real transcendental pleasure. Whatever distress or happiness we manufacture by mental concoction through the subtle mind has no reality, wow, but simply a mental concoction. One should therefore not imagine so-called happiness through mental concoction. Rather, the best course is to engage the mind in the service of the Lord, Rishikesha, and thus feel real blissful life. So even in the daytime, when we are dreaming, when you're thinking, when you're planning so many things, it's all false dreams. Because first of all, anything done by this body which is temporary, it's still anything done for this body which is temporary. How can it give any happiness? And the happiness that we receive is also temporary, and it's very little. This material world designed by Krishna to give us pain. Dukhalyam, ashashvatam. And everybody is working so hard to make their name, to make their position strong or solid in the material world, to make sure they have unlimited supply of money and whatever possessions so they can enjoy. But is there any enjoyment? There can be comfort that yes, I have maybe 100 crore rupees in my bank, or a property worth 100 crore rupees. But does that give real pleasure? It just gives some comfort, yeah. But does that give real pleasure, real happiness? No. If it does, then all these big billionaires, they would just be happy. They had so much of money, they cannot even spend it in this lifetime. But they're not happy. Of course, money is not the source of misery. I'm not saying that making money is wrong. But the real happiness does not lie in just money. Suppose somebody is given this whole planet Earth. Everything on the earth is his. But there's nobody to talk to. No other living entity is there. Will that person be happy? No. So our happiness actually lies in one sense in a relationship, but the real relationship is with Krishna. When we work on that relationship, when we engage ourselves in that relationship, that's what Prabhupada says, that is thus he can feel real blissful life. Because soul wants to be happy, wants to experience that bliss. It is missing in the material world. We can have big bungalow or properties to give comfort to the body or to give satisfaction to the mind. But the real happiness is in devotional service, because that is where the soul gets connected with Krishna. Otherwise, everybody is going through pain, plenty of it. There is a Vedic statement, Apana somam amrita bhuma apsaro bhir viharama. With reference to such a conception, one wants to go to the heavenly planets to enjoy with the young girls there and drink somaras. Such imaginary pleasure, however, has no value. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Antvattu phalam tesham tadbhavti alpamedasa. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and the fruits are limited and temporary. Even if by fruitive activity or worship of the demigods, one is elevated to the higher planetary systems for sense enjoyment, his situation is condemned in Bhagavad Gita as antavat, perishable. The happiness one enjoys in this way is like the pleasure of embracing a young woman in a dream. For some time, it may be pleasing, but actually the basic principle is false. The mental concoctions of happiness and distress in this material world are compared to dreams because of their falseness. All thoughts of obtaining happiness by using the material senses have a false background and therefore have no meaning. But this is our standard of happiness. Actually, this is a barometer of happiness. And more we have, more we possess materially. Even in the churches, when they go, they pray to the Lord, and then they praise the person who has done good materially, whether in a good position, lots of money, or whatever. Oh yes, God has mercy on you. In a way, yes, but that's not the barometer of happiness. But this has become the standard, and everybody measures their happiness with this. But are all the rich people happy? No. When we were going to college, those who come from middle class, lower middle class, we would be thinking, oh, I wish I can become a good engineer and get a good job, high paying job. And then I'll be happy. I'll have my own car. I'll have my own house. I'll be happy. Are we happy after having a car and a house? No. Then the desires become more and more desires creep in. Oh, now I have a job, but my colleague got the promotion. If I get the promotion, I will be happy. I got the package of whatever, maybe just guessing, 18 lakh rupees a year. If I get the package of 24 lakhs or 30 lakhs, 40, 50, 60, 80 lakhs, I'll be happy. Are we going to be happy? No. We'll always be comparing with somebody who is ahead of us instead of seeing ourselves statistically. That if somebody has a job, somebody has a roof on his head, and the food in the fridge, it's statistically we are in the top, whatever, 5-10%. But our happiness, actually, we standardize it by seeing others. So satisfaction with our present situation can only come when we are spiritually advanced. When we are spiritually advanced, when we are focused on our service to Krishna and being grateful to Krishna for whatever he has provided, that is happiness. But when it comes without spiritual consciousness, without spirituality in our lives, there's no way, no matter how much we are making, we can be happy. But with our material conditioning, material mindset, even when we take up spiritual process, the mindset makes us think, okay, if this and that devotee has more money or more whatever capabilities, he is happy or she is happy. Or that is the only way I can be happy. No. Krishna has given us, according to our karmas, according to our status, he has given us plenty to make progress. If he wants to give us some more, well, yeah, he can. If he doesn't, well, fine. So satisfaction and being grateful to Krishna for whatever he has given us, for whatever he has provided us. That is the beginning of our happiness, actually. So anyway, this is a big topic. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mata.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just a question that one person's personal endeavor into this spiritual journey to free from this darkness or mentions is sufficient, or one has to take the support of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra?
No, without Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, how are we going to make progress? Without reading Prabhupada's books, no philosophy will be clear. How can we make progress?
Or maybe if I will ask, like, we have Prabhupada's book, but we are putting too much of effort to read by ourselves, to understand by ourselves, but we are not taking the support of masters, spiritual masters or anyone. Will that be sufficient to reach to the goal, or it has to have all the three, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra?
Okay, when you say Guru, so I think you're referring to Diksha Guru.
A Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru.
Shiksha Guru, Prabhupada is a Shiksha Guru. There can be many Shiksha Gurus. There can be many Shiksha Gurus.
Yes.
Diksha Guru is always one. But Shiksha Gurus are the more important because they help us in understanding the scriptures.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So most prominent Shiksha Guru is Srila Prabhupada. And rest, whoever helps us, that is good. And then you talk about Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Sadhu means the devotees. Yes, without the association of devotees, we cannot make progress.
Since our senses are incomplete, so it's the same book which is written by Srila Prabhupada. If we try to understand by our own effort, can we have the proper realization, or it has to be under the guidance of Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru? That's what is the question, actually.
See, even Shiksha Gurus, every Shiksha Guru, he will have his own realization of the text, whatever Prabhupada has written. And he or she will explain accordingly. It might not be the topmost realization. It might be, but it might not be. So whatever we learn from other Shiksha Gurus, it will be based on their level of realization, their level of consciousness. No, we cannot expect that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is going to come and teach us. No. So we learn and then we make progress, and our level of consciousness increases, spiritualizes, and then when we read the same sentence, we might have a different realization. This is not just a textbook.
Yes.
It is, Bhagavatam is Krishna speaking to us through Prabhupada. No, it's up to our level of purification, how we understand it and how much we realize.
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, the Bhagavatam, it mentioned that unless the living entity resists the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master or Krishna, like it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence by his own endeavor. It is not possible. So it is mentioned like that.
Yeah, so when we are studying Bhagavatam, especially Prabhupada's purports, so Prabhupada is speaking to us. We are listening to Prabhupada. Of course, some things might not be clear, fine. So we can ask gurus, Shiksha gurus, different Shiksha gurus, or different devotees, which is fine. So when you say on our own endeavor doesn't mean we don't even study. Oh, my endeavor is not perfect, so I cannot make progress, so I should not study. No. This is my endeavor. When Prabhupada said, read my books every day, so I'm trying to follow his orders. So this is my service to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada can give me the knowledge, depending upon my realizations, depending upon my consciousness.
Yes, Prabhuji, understood clear. So basically intention is important. Like if we are studying Prabhupada's book with that submissive attitude and with that humble attitude, then definitely Prabhupada will guide us. But if we are saying scripture, studying it just for the reasoning, logics, or just to, for this debates and all with others, then definitely it will not be helpful. So the intention again, right, Prabhuji?
Beta, once we read Prabhupada's purports, definitely we become humble by understanding, even thinking how much knowledge Prabhupada had. And what do I know? I don't even know anything.
Yes,
it will make us humble.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Krishna.